Leora's heart raced as she swept the marble floor of the prince's chamber. The sun had not yet risen over the palace spires, and a quiet hum of alien machinery thrummed through the walls. Everything seemed ordinary, until a low, guttural growl echoed from the shadowed corner. She froze, eyes narrowing. The dragon had been sleeping behind a gilded screen, its bioluminescent scales flickering softly like liquid silver. She had been warned to stay out of its way, but her cleaning duties brought her too close. The creature's amber eyes snapped open, narrowing on her small, trembling form. Before she could react, the dragon lunged. Its jaws, sharp and curved, clamped onto her arm. Pain exploded through her body, but she clenched her teeth and did not scream. Panic would only make it worse. She remembered the vial of alien antiseptic she had taken from the royal infirmary earlier, still in her pocket. With one hand she gripped it, twisting the cork free while the other hand tried to keep the dragon's fangs from biting deeper. The dragon hissed, a strange sound that made the floor tremble. Its scales shimmered in unsettling patterns, almost like it was alive in a way beyond instinct. Leora noticed its eyes flicker toward a small, glowing object hidden beneath the prince's throne. Something about it made the dragon hesitate mid-attack, giving her the tiniest advantage. Using that fraction of a second, Leora jammed the antiseptic under the wound and tied a strip of her apron tightly around her arm to slow the bleeding. The pain was intense, but adrenaline kept her moving. Her fingers shook as she tried to steady her breaths, while the dragon's gaze remained fixed on the hidden object, not her. She stepped back cautiously, her mind racing. The bite wasn't random, it was a reaction, a warning, or a cry for help. But help from whom? The prince? She had no idea what the glowing thing was, only that it seemed important. She had seen artifacts in the palace before, strange relics from far-off worlds, but nothing that made a dragon act like this. A sudden thud echoed through the chamber. The dragon flinched, scales rattling, and Leora realized it was reacting to more than just the object. She had to act quickly or the situation would spiral out of control. She slowly edged toward a small table, grabbing a length of thick cloth to use as a barrier. The dragon's head followed her movements, each flicker of its glowing eyes tracking her precisely. "Easy, easy now," she whispered, though she doubted it understood her. But speaking calmed her own nerves, and she hoped some of that steadiness would reach the creature. She remembered how her father once told her, "Even the fiercest beasts respect courage, not fear." She took a deep breath and held her ground. The dragon took a step back, its claws clicking against the polished floor. Its wings twitched, sending gusts of wind that scattered papers and trinkets. Leora's heart pounded. She had never felt so exposed, yet she had never felt so alive. The combination of fear and clarity made her movements sharp and deliberate. Every action counted. One mistake could be fatal. She spotted a faint line of light beneath the throne. Something pulsed there, a strange rhythm that seemed to resonate with the dragon's agitation. Her mind raced. If she could reach it, maybe she could understand why the creature had attacked, maybe even stop it from becoming more dangerous. But the risk was enormous. Every step could trigger another bite. Leora shifted her weight, moving toward the throne, dragging the cloth to protect her from sudden lunges. The dragon's growl deepened, echoing in the chamber. Its tail lashed, knocking a golden vase to the floor, shattering it. The noise made her flinch, but she didn't stop. Her eyes locked on the pulsing object beneath the throne. Then, without warning, the dragon's body stiffened. Its eyes widened, not in anger but in recognition. It nudged the object slightly with its snout, almost deliberately. Leora froze. Was it trying to show her something? Communicate? Her pulse raced faster than ever. One wrong move could mean death. One careful move could reveal the palace's deepest secret. Pain shot through her arm, but she gritted her teeth and crouched low, inching closer. The dragon shifted its massive head to allow her passage, a strange moment of trust forming between them. Leora's mind screamed with questions. Why had the dragon bitten her in the first place? What was this object beneath the throne? And what part did the alien prince play in all this? Just as she reached out to touch the glowing artifact, a metallic chime rang out, sharp and piercing. The dragon recoiled, its scales flaring, and the object pulsed violently, brighter than ever. Leora stumbled backward, barely catching herself. The chamber seemed to warp around the glow, shadows stretching like fingers toward her. Her breathing came in short, panicked gasps. She had survived the bite, but the mystery had only begun. Whatever the dragon had been guarding, or warning her about, was far more dangerous than she had imagined. And now, with the artifact pulsing violently, it seemed to notice her as much as the dragon did. The sound of approaching footsteps echoed from the hall outside. Someone, or something, was coming. Leora's pulse spiked. She had seconds to decide: retreat and risk leaving the secret, or step closer and face the unknown danger head-on. Her hand hovered over the glowing artifact. The dragon's eyes met hers, wide and intense, as if silently asking, "Are you brave enough to understand?" And at that moment, the chamber doors slammed open. Leora's arm throbbed with pain, but she forced herself to stay upright, gripping the edge of the throne for balance. The footsteps in the hallway grew louder, echoing through the marble corridors like a drumbeat. Whoever it was, they weren't alone. She could hear the metallic clatter of guards' armor and a faint hiss, almost like another dragon nearby. She glanced at the creature in front of her. The first dragon, its scales flickering like molten silver, was tense but did not attack. Its eyes followed every movement she made, as if waiting to see what she would do next. Leora knew she had only one chance to act. If she froze, both dragons could turn on her, or the artifact could unleash something far worse. She grabbed a small crystal orb from the side table, part of the prince's collection of alien relics. Holding it up, she hoped to use it as a distraction. The dragon flinched at the light, giving her a fraction of a second to move closer to the glowing object beneath the throne. The artifact pulsed again, more intensely this time, as if responding to her approach. Her hand trembled as she reached down, brushing her fingers against the smooth surface. A jolt of energy shot through her palm, making her yelp and pull back. Sparks danced across the object, illuminating runes etched deep into its surface. They were unlike any language she had ever seen, but their rhythm seemed almost musical, resonating in her chest like a heartbeat. The first dragon hissed sharply, a warning. Leora froze. The hallway footsteps had stopped. The second dragon, larger and darker, appeared in the doorway, wings unfurling with a gust of wind that sent papers and vials tumbling. It bared its teeth at her, but her eyes locked on the artifact, and a strange instinct told her to remain calm. Panic would only make them attack. "Stay calm," she whispered, more to herself than to the dragons. She studied the runes again and noticed a faint pattern. The pulse of the artifact matched the first dragon's breathing. It wasn't just a source of danger, it was a bridge, a key between the creature and the strange device. Leora realized something incredible. The dragons were not mindless beasts. They were reacting to something, possibly protecting the palace from a threat she could barely understand. With careful hands, she touched one of the runes lightly. The artifact pulsed in sync with the first dragon's chest, and it leaned closer, nostrils flaring. Encouraged, Leora pressed another rune. The pulsing slowed, almost as if the dragon's agitation was subsiding. A spark of hope flickered in her chest. Maybe she could control this, maybe she could prevent a catastrophe. But before she could explore further, the second dragon lunged forward. Leora yelped, rolling to the side and catching a fallen chair to shield herself. The first dragon let out a low, warning growl, standing protectively between her and the newcomer. For a moment, the two creatures faced off, their scales glinting under the artifact's light, tension crackling like electricity. Leora's mind raced. She had to act, and fast. The artifact pulsed violently again, and she realized it wasn't just influencing the dragons, it could harm anyone nearby if left unchecked. She grabbed the chair, using it to push the second dragon back, keeping her distance while she considered her next move. "It wants balance," she muttered. The words came instinctively, a fragment of understanding, as though her empathy with the creatures allowed her to read them in ways the prince's guards never could. A sudden, sharp sound drew her attention. A section of the floor near the throne shifted. A hidden panel opened, revealing a faint tunnel leading deeper into the palace. The artifact's glow spilled into the narrow passage, pulsing like a heartbeat. Leora realized this might be the origin of the artifact's power, or its vulnerability. Whoever had placed it here had designed it to hide, to manipulate, to control. The first dragon nudged her gently with its snout, urging her toward the tunnel. Leora's pulse quickened. Could she trust it? The pain in her arm throbbed, but determination burned hotter. She nodded silently and stepped toward the opening, the second dragon hesitating for a fraction of a second before retreating slightly, eyeing her with suspicion. Suddenly the artifact emitted a sharp, high-pitched pulse. Leora stumbled, clutching her ears, and the first dragon roared in alarm. The tunnel's walls vibrated, and a faint shimmer appeared along the edges, as if revealing hidden symbols she hadn't noticed before. Something ancient and alien was awakening. Leora's heart hammered. She had no idea what awaited her, but retreat was not an option. From the hallway a commanding voice shouted, "Stop her!" She must not touch it. Guards began to pour into the chamber, weapons raised, their voices mingling with the second dragon's growls. Leora realized the palace itself was turning against her, not out of malice but out of fear and ignorance. Only she could act now, only she could calm the dragons and understand the artifact. She pressed her hand firmly against the glowing object, bracing herself as the first dragon lowered its massive head, resting it lightly on her shoulder. The warmth and weight were strangely comforting, as if it recognized her courage and resolve. Leora's eyes darted between the approaching guards and the glowing tunnel, understanding that the next few moments would define everything. With a deep breath, she stepped into the tunnel, the artifact humming under her fingers. The first dragon followed, its massive wings folding to navigate the tight space, while the second dragon remained in the chamber, uncertain and wary. The artifact pulsed in response to her movement, and a faint energy wave radiated through the corridor, lighting symbols along the walls. The sound of shouting guards faded behind her, replaced by the low hum of the artifact and the dragon's soft, steady breaths. Leora's arm throbbed, pain mingling with adrenaline, but she felt alive, determined, and strangely connected to the creature beside her. She didn't know what awaited at the end of the tunnel, but she knew one thing: the palace's secrets, and perhaps the fate of the dragons, depended on her courage, her intelligence, and her next choice. A sudden flash of light burst from the artifact, casting jagged shadows along the tunnel walls. Leora froze. Something moved ahead, something large and alien, and it was watching her. Her breath caught. Whatever lay ahead, it knew she was coming. Leora's heart pounded as she pressed forward through the narrow tunnel, the glow from the artifact illuminating jagged walls etched with alien symbols. Every step echoed in the confined space, bouncing back in a rhythm that seemed to match her racing pulse. The first dragon followed closely, its massive form surprisingly graceful, folding its wings to fit. Its amber eyes never left her, filled with a strange intelligence that made her feel both protected and accountable. She stumbled over a protruding stone and barely caught herself on the wall. The artifact vibrated sharply in her hand, sending tingling currents up her arm. Pain from the bite throbbed relentlessly, but determination coursed stronger. She had to reach whatever lay at the end of this tunnel. The palace guards, the prince, even the second dragon, they all waited behind. Here she had a chance to understand, to act. The tunnel widened abruptly, revealing a chamber unlike anything Leora had imagined. Bioluminescent fungi covered the walls, casting eerie shadows, while pools of liquid shimmered like mercury on the floor. In the center, suspended above a stone pedestal, hovered a crystalline core pulsing with light. Its surface was etched with glowing runes identical to those on the artifact she held. The air hummed with energy so potent it made her hair lift slightly from her shoulders. The first dragon stepped forward cautiously, wings twitching as if sensing the chamber's significance. Leora realized the crystal was the source of the artifact's power. The pulse she felt through the artifact in her hand resonated in the chamber itself. She crouched slightly, trying to understand how the two were connected. A thought struck her. The dragon's aggression, the palace disturbances, even the artifact she had touched, all of it was linked to this crystal. A sudden movement made her freeze. Shadows flickered along the chamber walls, and the air shimmered as if reality itself were bending. The second dragon appeared, its dark scales absorbing the bioluminescent light. It didn't roar. Instead, it circled the chamber slowly, eyes fixed on the crystal and then on Leora. She realized it was not attacking. It was assessing, calculating, waiting to see if she was a threat. "Easy," she whispered, holding the artifact out slightly, letting it hover in the air. She felt its hum in sync with the crystal. The pulse had slowed when she stepped into the tunnel, but now it began to quicken again. Something was waking. The crystal flickered violently, and the first dragon let out a low growl of warning. The chamber shivered, small rocks rattling across the floor. Leora's pulse quickened. She didn't understand the mechanisms or the physics, but instinct told her one thing. The crystal was dangerous, and if it reacted violently, both dragons and she herself could be hurt, or worse. She studied the runes etched into the crystal. Patterns repeated, but there was one sequence that matched the artifact she held. Heart hammering, she pressed her fingers onto the artifact again, letting it resonate with the crystal. A shock of energy surged through her arm, making her gasp, but the pulse slowed, almost like she had tamed a wild rhythm. The first dragon nudged her gently as if approving her action. Then, unexpectedly, a voice echoed in her mind, not words, not sound, but understanding. Balance, required, protector, human. It wasn't threatening. It was a message carried through the pulse, through the crystal, and through the dragon. Leora's mind spun. The crystal, the artifact, the dragons, they weren't merely dangerous. They were guardians, and somehow they were reaching out to her because of her courage, her empathy, her determination. Her gaze shifted to the second dragon. Its amber eyes flickered with recognition. Leora realized it had tested her, observed her choices, and determined that she was capable of understanding the crystal's role. She took a cautious step closer, holding the artifact steadily, matching its pulse to the crystal's rhythm. A sudden shudder ran through the chamber. The crystal flared and a ripple of energy shot outward. Leora instinctively raised the artifact, using it as a conduit. The room erupted in light, and the second dragon hissed, wings flaring to shield itself. Sparks danced across the walls, illuminating the runes in a pattern she hadn't noticed before, a sequence she instinctively recognized as though her mind was attuned to the crystal's rhythm. Acting on impulse, Leora pressed the artifact against the pedestal beneath the crystal. A sharp pulse of energy surged through her, making her stumble backward. The first dragon roared, shielding her from a burst of light that shot upward like a column of pure energy. When the light dimmed, the crystal hovered, still glowing but calm. Its pulse matched the artifact in her hand perfectly. The two dragons relaxed, one brushing its massive head against her shoulder. Leora gasped for breath, pain and adrenaline mixing in her body. She realized the artifact had not just connected to the crystal, it had synchronized it. She had stopped a dangerous surge that could have destroyed the palace, or worse, harmed the dragons themselves. Her intelligence and courage had made a difference. But before she could celebrate, a low rumble vibrated through the chamber floor. The walls began to shift subtly, stones grinding against each other as a hidden mechanism activated. Leora's pulse spiked. She had succeeded, but something else was waking beneath the crystal, a force far older and far larger than either dragon or the artifact. The light from the crystal flickered violently again. Shadows stretched unnaturally across the chamber, and a faint metallic hum began to resonate in the air, deeper than anything she had heard before. The dragons stiffened, alert and tense, eyes darting to the chamber walls. Leora gritted her teeth, clutching the artifact. She had faced danger, calmed the dragons and synchronized the crystal, but now it was clear that this was only the beginning. Something huge, something unknown was about to emerge. And from the shifting shadows, a faint outline began to take shape, an enormous alien presence, larger than any dragon, moving with deliberate intelligence toward the crystal and the humans in the room. Her stomach dropped. This was no ordinary threat. This was a force she had never faced before, and it had noticed her. The artifact pulsed violently in her hand, and the first dragon let out a deafening roar, backing her toward the edge of the chamber. Leora's mind raced, heart hammering. She had acted bravely before, but now courage alone might not be enough. Something ancient, powerful and alien was awake, and it was watching her. Leora's legs trembled as she pressed herself against the chamber wall, artifact in hand. The first dragon crouched protectively by her side. The massive alien form rising from the shadows was unlike anything she had imagined, tall, with limbs that twisted unnaturally, glowing veins running along its exoskeleton, eyes that seemed to pierce straight through her. Its presence made the air thrum with power, vibrating in her chest. Every instinct screamed for her to flee, yet something in her core refused. She had come this far. She could not back down. The second dragon remained at the entrance, its body tense, wings half-raised. It hissed, low and warning, but did not move forward. Leora realized it was trying to assess whether she could handle the situation, whether she could be trusted with the crystal's power. She met the alien's gaze, and for a heartbeat, the chamber felt suspended in time. The alien paused, cocking its head slightly as if curious about her presence. "Stay calm," she whispered to herself, gripping the artifact tightly. Pain from the dragon bite throbbed in her arm, but adrenaline sharpened her mind. She scanned the chamber quickly, the pedestal beneath the crystal, the runes on the walls, the strange glowing pools. Every element could be used to her advantage, but she had only moments. One wrong move and the alien could destroy everything. Her, the dragons, the artifact. The alien moved. Its steps were deliberate, each one causing the floor to quake faintly. The first dragon growled, pressing closer to Leora, wings slightly unfurled in a protective stance. She could feel the creature's intelligence. They were not mindless predators. They were allies, guardians, judging her, waiting for her to act. A sudden idea sparked. The artifact pulsed strongly in her hand, responding to the crystal. If she could synchronize it with the alien's energy, Perhaps she could calm the creature or at least redirect its aggression. Leora took a deep breath, closing her eyes for a moment to feel the rhythm of the crystal, the hum of the artifact and the subtle pulse of the alien's presence. Her hands shook, but determination overrode fear. She opened her eyes and raised the artifact slowly, matching its pulse with the crystal's steady glow. The alien's chest veins glimmered, its movements slowing slightly as it recognized the energy pattern. Leora pressed her lips together, focusing, willing the pulse to grow steadier. Sparks of light arced across the chamber as the artifact resonated with the alien. The first dragon nudged her gently, a reminder that she was not alone. Confidence surged through her. She moved closer to the pedestal, careful to maintain the energy rhythm. The alien shifted its stance, watching, and for the first time, Leora felt a fragile sense of trust forming between them. But trust alone would not save her. The alien's next movement was sudden, a sharp strike toward the crystal as if it wanted to claim it. Leora reacted instinctively, raising the artifact to intercept the energy surge. A bolt of radiant light shot from her hands, colliding with the alien's attack. Sparks flew across the chamber, illuminating the walls and the dragon's scales in brilliant flashes. The second dragon let out a piercing roar, rushing in to shield Leora as the energy crackled violently between them. The floor shook beneath her feet, and Leora gritted her teeth, refusing to fall. She pressed her palms harder against the artifact, letting it channel every ounce of her focus and determination. Her arm burned with pain from the bite, but she did not falter. The alien strike met her resistance, and for a tense moment, the chamber was bathed in blinding light. Then, with a thunderous roar from the first dragon and a pulse of energy from the artifact, the alien staggered back. The crystal above the pedestal stabilized, its light glowing steadily. The alien froze, tentatively observing Leora, as if reconsidering its next move. She realized she had done it, she had matched its power with intelligence and courage, not with force. Breath ragged, she lowered the artifact slightly, allowing the alien to adjust. The first dragon leaned against her shoulder, warmth and strength grounding her. The second dragon relaxed at the chamber entrance, wings folding as it watched cautiously. Leora's chest heaved with exertion and relief. She had faced the impossible and survived, not through raw strength but through clarity, empathy, and ingenuity. Her moment of triumph was cut short. The crystal pulsed once more, sharply, as if sending a signal into the depths of the palace. Leora's eyes widened. The energy pattern was changing, forming intricate waves she had not seen before. A low hum began to resonate through the chamber, deeper than before, vibrating through the walls and the floor. The alien shifted uneasily, its eyes narrowing. Something else was coming, something far greater than even this guardian. Leora realized that the artifact and the crystal had only revealed a fragment of a much larger mystery. The palace itself might not be the ultimate threat. The signal, the energy, had drawn attention from forces beyond her comprehension. The first dragon growled, stepping protectively in front of her. Leora steadied herself, gripping the artifact tightly. She had saved the chamber from immediate disaster, but the wider danger was awakening. Her mind raced. What else could the crystal summon? What other forces were now aware of her presence? A sudden vibration shook the floor beneath her feet. Dust rained from the ceiling and shadows stretched unnaturally along the walls. The alien stepped back, but its glowing eyes remained fixed on Leora. She understood now. Her courage, her intelligence, and her empathy had earned her temporary control, but the battle was far from over. Then, from the deepest corner of the chamber, a new pulse emerged. It was faint at first, almost imperceptible, but quickly grew, sending ripples of energy that reached the crystal and the artifact in her hands. The dragons tensed, wings flicking, and Leora's stomach dropped. This was no ordinary force. Whatever it was, it had been dormant, waiting for someone to interact with the crystal, and now it was awake. Leora's pulse raced, but she didn't step back. She had faced death, dragons, and alien power before. She could face this too. The chamber hummed louder, and the first ripple of light became a solid column stretching toward the ceiling, warping the very air. Leora tightened her grip on the artifact, her eyes locking with the aliens. It seemed to communicate silently, "You are the one who must decide what comes next." The realization hit her with crushing clarity. The palace, the dragons, the artifact, all of it was part of a larger game. One wrong move, one hesitation, and the consequences could be catastrophic. Her breath caught as the new pulse intensified. Something massive was about to emerge from the shadows. Leora's hand shook, but her resolve hardened. She had faced impossible odds before. She would face this. And as the shadows coalesced into a towering alien shape, Leora knew there was no turning back. The adventure was far from over. The pulse of energy in the chamber vibrated through Leora's bones as she held the artifact tightly. The massive alien figure emerging from the shadows was no longer just a threat. It was awe-inspiring, its body shimmering with patterns of light that moved like liquid metal. The first dragon pressed close, its warm, protective bulk a reminder that she was not alone, while the second dragon had cautiously advanced, hovering at the tunnel's mouth as if ready to intervene. Leora's mind raced. Every instinct screamed danger, but fear could not rule her. She had survived bites, dragons, and the volatile crystal. She could face whatever came next. Her hand tightened around the artifact, feeling its pulse synchronize with the energy surging from the alien presence. Somehow, it trusted her, or at least responded to her courage. She had to act decisively, or everything she had fought for would be lost. The alien stepped closer, its eyes glowing like twin suns. The chamber's walls trembled with the resonance of its energy, and the crystal above the pedestal pulsed violently, almost like it was breathing. Leora realized that the artifact in her hands was a key, a bridge between the crystal and the alien. If she could synchronize them fully, perhaps she could calm the creature rather than fight it. She had one chance to try. Taking a deep breath, she extended the artifact toward the alien, focusing on the pulse, the rhythm, the flow of energy she had sensed in the dragons and the crystal. The alien paused, its limbs stiffening as if testing her intention. The first dragon nudged her shoulder, a silent encouragement. Leora pressed her lips together and willed the artifact to resonate fully, letting her mind guide the energy rather than her body. A blinding surge of light erupted from the artifact, flowing outward like liquid fire, connecting with the crystal and then the alien. The chamber shook, dust raining from the ceiling, but the force was not destructive, it was aligning. The alien's massive form quivered, then gradually relaxed, the threatening intensity in its glowing eyes softening into something almost reverent. Leora's heart raced with both relief and wonder. The first dragon pressed against her side, its warmth grounding her, and even the second dragon stepped cautiously forward, wings folding as it watched the transformation. The alien now hovered quietly, its energy flowing in harmony with the crystal and the artifact. Leora realized she had done it. She had turned a potentially catastrophic encounter into a moment of understanding and balance. Human intelligence, courage, and empathy had prevailed against what seemed impossible. Her arm throbbed with pain, the bite still aching, but the sense of achievement filled her chest with warmth. She had calmed the dragons, synchronized the crystal, and faced an ancient alien presence without losing her nerve. The palace could have been destroyed, but instead, she had proven that even a human could influence forces far beyond ordinary comprehension. Suddenly, the artifact pulsed sharply and Leora glanced at the crystal. Tiny lines of light shot outward, forming a faint map across the chamber walls, like a constellation of stars pointing to something far beyond the palace. Her breath caught. The signal the crystal had emitted was not local, it was sending a message into the cosmos. The palace was only the beginning. The first dragon rumbled softly, a sound that resonated with Leora's chest. It nudged her gently toward the tunnel. The second dragon followed, cautious but obedient. She realized they were guiding her to leave the chamber, but the artifact hummed insistently, pulling her attention back to the crystal. The runes shifted subtly, revealing a hidden compartment at the pedestal's base. Leora bent down and carefully opened it. Inside lay a small, strange device, alien in design, glowing faintly with the same rhythm as the crystal. Her mind raced. The device was connected to the artifact, the crystal, and the alien presence she had just calmed. Whoever had placed it here had intended to control or protect something far larger than the palace. Leora's pulse quickened. She could barely comprehend the scope, but she understood one thing clearly: she had just stepped into a far greater mystery. The first dragon nudged her again, reminding her that action was required. Leora gathered the artifact and the small device carefully, placing them in her bag. The second dragon, still tense, watched the shadows for any sign of further threat. The alien presence in the chamber had settled, watching silently, almost like a sentinel now. Leora could feel its awareness, vast and ancient, yet it did not interfere. She had earned its respect, at least for now. As she and the dragons made their way back through the tunnel, Leora glanced over her shoulder at the chamber. The crystal pulsed steadily, no longer volatile, but she sensed that its energy remained alive, ready to awaken again if needed. She realized that the palace, the dragons, and the artifact were all part of something larger. A network, a warning, a call for someone capable of courage and intelligence. She had answered that call. Reaching the chamber exit, Leora stepped into the faint glow of the palace corridor. The morning light streamed through tall windows, and the distant sound of guards shouting echoed behind her. She had survived the immediate threat, but she knew the palace would never be the same. The dragons, once wild and unpredictable, now followed her lead, acknowledging her presence and determination. Her mind raced with questions and possibilities. The signal the crystal had emitted, the mysterious device, the alien presence, it was all pointing to a far larger adventure. Leora's courage had changed the fate of the dragons, the palace, and perhaps even the universe beyond. She was no longer just a maid. She was a protector, a bridge between humans and forces far greater than anyone had imagined. A soft rumble vibrated through the corridor. The dragons stiffened, ears twitching. Leora's pulse spiked. She knew that the next challenge was already coming, somewhere out there, drawn by the signal she had helped awaken. She looked at the first dragon, then the second, and smiled grimly. Together they had survived the impossible. Together they would face what came next. And far above the palace, in the dark expanse of space, a faint light blinked in response to the crystal's signal. Something ancient, powerful, and curious had noticed. Leora's journey was only beginning.